All right, team, welcome back. Today's episode is brought to us by Liquid IV, America's number one leading hydration supplement. Whether we're looking for some electrolytes post workout, an immune support, a sleep aid, and we also have a sugar free option, it's all there with Liquid IV. We can save ourselves 20% off at checkout using code NOMADIC. That's Liquid IV. Save yourself 20% off using code NOMADIC. Today's episode is also brought to us by Laird Superfood. They've got it covered from supplements to coffee to snacks. Everything comes from the ground. It's plant based, focusing on nourishing our body from the inside out. That's Laird Superfood, Laird Superfood. We can save ourselves 15% off using code NOMADIC. That's Laird Superfood, 15% off using code NOMADIC. Now, let's get back to the chat.
I'll send that way.
All right, Chief. Getting a nice suntan. Chilling on the beach.
That's the one.
Mate,
Good for the mind.
definitely
mental
good for
health.
the mind.
Yeah.
I tell you what, the sea has some sort of restorative powers. I'm telling you this for a fact. Like, mountains are great, woods are great, jumping off into the field is great. But I feel like once you put your hands in the sea, it just
Yeah.
cleanses the soul a little bit. It's crazy.
Yeah. And do you know what? Like, I wasn't a beach person because I grew up in the country, like country town, city. And I moved up to the beach 16 years ago. Like, we'd come up here for holidays, but I was terrified of the surf and didn't really, and having anxiety and all that anyway, and big waves, and being 13 when I watched Jaws, didn't make it a comfortable feeling going in the ocean. But now, 16 years later, I ocean swim 3 times a week. I surf life save, and they say it's about the ionization of the surf.
Wow.
So there's actually research saying that this salt water and ionization of the air, even around the beach and the salt water, is actually so good for our mental health.
Wow. Why is that? Do you know?
No, it's just more to do with that. It changes our physiological state with the ionization.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I guess it's like living in a magnesium bath in many ways.
It's the interaction of Mother Nature around us with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like it's something
Yeah,
that we take for
absolutely.
granted being in urban environments all the time.
Yeah. I have to go out. Even when I'm home, like I've got windows open in the middle of winter because I just need fresh air all the time.
Yeah. Be the
Yeah.
impossible. Why?
Yes. Be the impossible. So for me, that was, I guess, when I started my coaching side of my business, through my own mental health journey, I never believed that I could do anything really. I had so low self-worth. And as I started building that up, I competed athletically at a national level. I got sober. I started working out strategies for my mental health. I started building up a successful business. I guess when I was looking at what to call my next stage of my coaching business, life coaching business, it was like, I was like, I never thought this was possible.
Mm.
And so, I guess I turned that around to not only wasn't that I didn't think it was possible, I actually thought most things were impossible to achieve. And I realized that so many other people feel that way about life. So for me, it was like that play on words on that you can be the impossible.
Mm.
And reframing that impossible to a positive way of using it.
Did you look at it as it was impossible for you or just impossible in general?
I personally, my own limiting beliefs, my own trauma, childhood trauma, all of that had made me feel like I couldn't achieve anything until I worked on all that stuff. But, I find even now with people I work with, people I talk to, so many people live their life not believing in themselves.
Oh,
not
mate.
believing that they can do anything other than, the horrible job they're in, the terrible relationship they're in, that's just their lot in life.
Mm.
And that's what life is. Whereas for me now, I realize that it's limitless. You know, if anything, the only real barrier is our own mindset and what we think we're capable of.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's something that I've been thinking about quite regularly at the moment. Is like how many times do we trip up because we cause our fall at the first hurdle? We kind of like foreshadow our own prophecy by tripping ourselves up. It's like, oh, see, I tried, but it didn't work out. It's like, well,
Yes,
did you cause that by yourself? Are you limiting yourself by putting the ceiling above you? You know,
yes.
it's a really strange thing, isn't it? Like humans like to cling to stagnation and they don't like to change. And that's the only thing that is guaranteed. Everything's going to change all the time.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, and I guess if you looked at personality types and all that, there are those who are curious and those who aren't as a personality.
Yeah.
So I think people who are more curious are probably better adaptable to change. But I think it's also then, regardless of that, there is that mindset shift. And like for me now, even with problems and mistakes, I get excited about them. Like I go, oh my God, here's like a huge challenge. How exciting, because A, I'm going to learn something, usually about myself. and B, I see those moments as an opportunity to change my life in the direction where I want to go. Because usually if because we look back in hindsight
Yeah.
all the time and go, oh, at the time it was the shittiest, most horrible thing that I thought could possibly happen to me. But in hindsight, probably 90% of the time, people go, oh, yeah, but if that didn't happen, I wouldn't have what I have now. So for me, it's about teaching people, well, don't wait for hindsight to have that revelation while you're going through the challenging moment. Really trust and believe that this is exciting and only good things can come from it.
How would you go about that process if someone, say, let's make an example, someone who
Yep.
innately isn't curious,
Yep.
right, and is really struggling with not being able to see the wood for the trees. They're in the middle of the in the shit. How would you go about that process?
Okay, so I think the first thing for me is always acknowledging to people that it's okay that they feel like that. It's okay
Yeah.
to feel shitty. It's okay to be depressed and all that. There's nothing that doesn't make you inherently broken or wrong or weak. So it's just about then going, okay, I don't like feeling like this. So start with something small. What's something small that you could do that will change how you feel? And I always tap into how we feel about things is usually a good indication of whether when we're making choices.
Yeah.
So self-awareness is probably huge first, and being honest with your self-awareness. Like, don't pretend that you're always positive. Don't pretend that you've got it all under control. You know, be honest with what maybe those parts of you that you need to work on.
Mm.
For me, for example, I go, oh my God, I can be so reactive and I can often talk before I think about things. So I acknowledge that's part of who I am. So I'm okay with that. I just then go, I'm okay with that, but there's probably times when I need to just like think about it a little bit more. But I
Yeah.
don't beat myself up about it when I don't do it properly or, you know, make a mistake or things like that. So I think, yeah, the first thing is self-awareness. Second thing, be kind to yourself, whatever the result. And third thing would be, yeah, just try to make changes in small steps. Don't don't get too focused on the big goals or the big changes, because they happen over time if you're just doing little things.
Yeah, I love that little thing mentality, right? Like
Yeah.
a very good friend of
And
mine gave me the little art of small wins, find small wins, right? Even when,
yes.
you're in the right good shit and you're like, okay, cool. Have you had a coffee this morning? If the answer is yes, that's a small win. Those little things that just ends up creating momentum. It's like little breadcrumbs that lead you to Hansel and Gretel's house rather than just the gigantic pieces of gingerbread that's the walls. It's like, no, 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 no. It takes those little steps to get there, to stop thinking about the
Oh,
1,000 miles. Just look at your feet for a minute. And there's times where we need to look up at the horizon and we need to know where we're going and we need to, map out that strategy and figure out the journey ahead. And then there's times that we just kind of got to like trust that that's going to be all right and keep your eyes on your feet and literally just shuffle those bad boys forward.
yeah. Look, and I would say always try and move to a place where no matter what's happening for you, and again, like I have a mentor who says it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And just to those little mindset shifts in how we words are very powerful. How we
Yeah.
talk to ourselves is really powerful. So when you find yourself in that negative headspace, what I've learned is to move out of that, and not even, I used to move out of it into problem solve mode, but I don't even do that anymore. I just completely move out of that into what I'm grateful for, which is similar to what you were saying before. And even if the world is falling around me, same, I might go, oh, yeah, but look at my coffee. I love coffee. I love chocolate. And automatically, in that split second, our whole physiology changes as well. Um, because we're not in that whole negative space again.
Yeah.
So therefore, I wait till I'm feeling better, then I try and problem solve.
Mm.
But if we're trying to problem solve from the negative headspace, like, we just start spiraling, and also then our whole energetic attraction is still negative. And then it's like a struggle, and it shouldn't be a struggle. It doesn't, well, not that it shouldn't, it doesn't have to be a struggle.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be. That's something that
Yeah.
that's something that my missus has taught me recently. It's like it doesn't have to be a fight all the time. You don't have
No.
to be in the trenches 100% of the time, throwing punches, lobbing grenades back over, and you're like, no, no, no. You can create. You don't have to just fucking scrap. And that's why I
Yeah.
like writing things down and journaling and kind of being a bit of creative of the words on a paper, right? Because you can get
Yes.
it out and then you can attack it at a different point in time, which is just a timestamp, right? We can just then see it objectively and be like, oh, now I can relate to the emotion behind the words that I chose
Yeah.
at a particular time, and you can start
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
understand yourself a little bit better.
Yeah. I love yeah, writing. Once you write things down, you get it out. I have learned to write an email and not send it.
I think I need to learn that.
No, well, not send it straight away. I still have slept on it and woken up and gone, yeah, no,
Welcome.
fuck it. Uh, but but yeah, but I've also woken up and gone, okay, and that's the other thing. Like I'm, I can be very passionate and justice and fairness and all of that, but I also now am a little bit more, does my response serve me?
Mm.
So yes, there might be something in me at the time that goes, oh yeah, I want to say this. However, I'm now a bit more analytical on, well, what's the outcome I really want? And sometimes that means I might have to pull back on my passion
Yeah.
because, you know, people, I say we can't change people, we can only influence people. And sometimes to influence people, we do have to modify our own behavior so that we can break through their walls or their barriers, or everything like that, but again, without expectation. One thing I've learned about humans is I love them and I
We're
hate them
dicks.
sometimes, but you know what? I have no expectation of them. I all I can do is be me, be the best version of me, and how people respond is how people respond, and I'm okay with every response.
Mm. You said something there that really hit me about our expectations.
Yeah,
I'm going to be thinking about that a lot.
yeah. I have one of my favorite quotes is expectation is resentment in credit.
Mm.
Yeah.
Expectation is resentment in credit.
Yeah.
I like that.
Because yeah, I love that. And I always bring that in because and I know myself, the minute I expect a result or expect a person to behave a certain way or expect something to turn out a bit way, you know, so many times I'll be disappointed. But then I'm the one who created the disappointment, not the environment or the person. Whereas now and from a mental health perspective, I think it's so powerful because I'm not as swayed anymore by environmental things outside me. I have much more control over my emotional state because I don't let outside things impact me as much.
Mm.
And part of that is not having expectation. And I think I learned the hard way, as we all often do. But I guess for me, it's like trying to, so hopefully people can learn from lessons and implement strategies so they don't have to learn the hard way. And I realized that, most people are just doing the best they want in their life and how through their filters and their belief systems. And if we start believing in ourselves, we actually don't need to be validated by anyone else. And when we don't need to be validated by anyone else, we actually feel better about ourselves because we're not putting our own self-worth based on all these other people.
Yeah, it really does come down to the internal environment, right? And
Yeah.
realizing that you control the tides. It is not dictated by the weather or your
No.
boss or your spouse or whatever, right? And it's funny because, I guess human behavior has become quite a big part of my life, just being a coach, right? Just seeing people come in, do some fitness, go out, come in again. And you just like people's moods change so much, right? And you're like, well, why? Because maybe 51% of the time you're in a bad place and 49% of the time you're in a good place. That's not good. We need that reverse. And hopefully it's a bit 95 good, and then you get
Yes.
5% shit, it's the fun. And it's really trying to understand of like, okay, cool. If it's affected by these external environments, then how do we then regain that, those reins and be like, in fact, I'm the master of my ship. You know, I
Yes.
dictate whether I'm good or not everything else. And I think it does start with figuring out who we are. That self awareness has got to be number
Yeah.
one, right? And then
Yeah,
figuring out how to
absolutely.
like work with yourself. We're all dealt this set of cards, and it's like cool. There might be
Yeah.
different cards in your hand, but figure out how to play them. And I think we have tripped ourselves up and tripped each other up by allowing victimhood, right? Like we're
Yes.
all entitled and we're all a victim at the same time. And I was like, what the fuck just happened to us? Like, what we can't do anything anymore? Like, no, 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 no. First of all, shit happens, yeah, but you're not a victim, right? And then also,
Yeah.
you're amazing. It's incredible, but you're not entitled to shit, And that's kind of, we need this balance of our internal dialogue, I think, to keep
Yes.
us somewhat humble, like centralized of like, oh, if we could go so far left, that means we can go so far right. We are a frigging human pendulum, but we need to spend most of the time centralized in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, my own journey was like 20, over 20 years of addiction. And, I've been sober 13 years, but it wasn't until I got sober, I realized, oh my goodness, I actually have a really addictive personality.
Yeah.
So whether it was sport or, goals, I could get like obsessed with them.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, okay, or food. Like, I'm one of those people who can't just have one piece of chocolate. Like,
I'm the same.
I'm
Yeah.
not happy. I'm not happy till it's all gone. And I used to fight that, but then I went, you know what? That's part of who I am. So I go, as long as I'm using that in things that are good for me, absolutely great trait to have because it makes me really determined, really stubborn, and really resilient.
Yeah.
I just have to be aware that when it's used in an unhealthy way, it's not good for me. But it's also part of who I am. And I'm not going to change my genetic makeup. And that is part of our genetic makeup. All I can do is have strategies that help me to manage my way through life with those traits.
Do you find you have to do multiple different things with an addictive personality to kind
Yep.
of spread yourself out so you don't go all in on one thing and kind of lose yourself?
Yes. Yeah. I lucky for me, I also get bored easily. So like I'm
Oh,
always
nice.
changing things. Yeah. Yeah. So I go full in, but then I will get bored. So then I'm like, well, done.
Yeah.
So I always have like heaps of things on the go at one time. Which again, like people, there's all these things that people go, multitasking is bad for you. You should stay focused. I'm a multitasker. I work well like that. So again, everything comes back to, like you said, number one, knowing yourself, being okay with yourself, the good and the not so good,
Yeah.
and finding ways that, you can live a life where, like I said, you're feeling happy and fulfilled and joy most of the time.
Yeah.
And then when you're not, being okay with that and know that that's just a moment in time.
You know what the problem is? People aren't willing to accept their own shadow.
No. And I think, though, so society has done a great job of telling people, to the only way to be successful is to have that mask of no vulnerability,
Yeah.
no mental health issues, being perfect, being positive all the time, all of that. So, there's that whole social structure that feels uncomfortable when other people are being vulnerable. And this is what I talk about, whether it's, again, my own story of childhood sexual abuse or mental health. I recently did a keynote for Are You OK Day.
Mm.
And my thing is, don't stop helping people because you feel uncomfortable with the topic.
Ooh, I like that.
Because most of the time we don't talk about all that stuff because we've created a society which sees all those things as weaknesses or uncomfortable subjects. So let's just all avoid them. But I go, we can't grow as a global humanitarian community until we just go, do you know what? All of this is human nature. Humans are incredible, but they can also be horrible.
Yeah.
Like we have wars, we have starving people, so humans aren't doing a great job all the time, but we have the capacity to, I think, if we acknowledge our humanity and acknowledge as humans, we have some traits that aren't so great.
Yeah, I think like I don't know about yourself, but I'm not religious, right? But I think
Yeah.
heaven and hell is just the ends of the spectrum within us. I think we
Yes.
have the capacity to be able to create divinity within our own self, and then also the capacity to be able to be this just sick, twisted motherfucker. right? And then everything in between. Like I think that's us. I think it's free will, right? You know, we speak about it all
Yes.
the time. Freedom is what we're trying to go for, liberty or whatever what people say. Yeah, cool. So you can do whatever the hell you want. Great. Which also means you could be an evil bastard, but you could be this
Yes.
angelic, beautiful creature. I was like, yeah, try and be the latter, right? Try
Yeah.
and be as close to that as you can, and then maybe I don't know, you and everybody else has a good time whilst we're alive. You know, I think we
Yeah.
need to accept the decision is in our hands. You know, and something that I repeat to myself practically every morning is you are the devil you choose to become, and that's
Yes.
kind of it. You know,
And
everything that you are, you've chosen. You have chosen that from a habit or subconscious,
that,
conscious. You have chosen that. It's on you, and it is on me, and it's on everybody else.
yeah, totally. That's that whole self-responsibility.
Yeah.
And again, yeah, no, I brought up Catholic. Um, stopped being a Catholic, I think, when I was like 18 because I went, well, sex before marriage, abortion, women's rights. Yeah, probably not the religion for me. Um,
Nice.
yeah. I then dabbled a bit, like I lived in Thailand, so I love Buddhism. So for me, and this is probably life, it's like everything, even in the fitness industry, but with religion, it's like, oh, I like this bit from them, I like that bit
Yeah.
from them,
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that bit. So I just like collect the bits I like and go like, generally, most religions have some absolutely wonderful qualities. And I think it's a bit like anything. It's a bit like, when you get into politics and you talk about sociology, communism,
Mm.
neoliberalism, whatever. I said, in theory, most things have good qualities.
Yep.
Humans get involved in them.
I'm fucking up.
And, and human qualities are, in a big part, survival, greed, and power.
Yeah.
And again, so if we know that about humans, then we can self-regulate ourselves to go, well, is this helping me? Is this helping others?
Mm.
And I think I'm big on community and helping others. And I think again, social structures have, especially in the Western world, have created a very individualistic, as you're saying, entitled society. Whereas, and that's one of the things I love about traveling in Asia or when I lived in Asia, I found still a lot more sense of community. Um, and even here at home, I'm involved in surf clubs and running clubs and other sporting organisations or homeless centre because they're communities. And I love that sense of giving back because and I think giving back is actually, I always say, so selfish. It's so selfish because I feel so good when I'm giving.
I think there's an innate quality, right, of humans
Yes.
that we want to help. We want to
Yes.
nurture. You know, we have a nurturing like gene within us. It's like, oh yeah, let's see if we can like water this flower and then it's going to bloom and blossom and be this beautiful thing. It's like, yeah, it's the same with people. That's what we want to see. We want to see people thrive. And and like if we're not in that spot, which we've all fallen victim
Oh,
to of
yes.
fuck those people, I want to see them like go bust in the business or whatever, right? It's like, yeah, we need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
check ourselves. We're watering or feeding the wrong wolf. We've all got if it's an old Cherokee saying there's two wolves within us, right? A good and
Oh,
a bad one.
yes.
It's we get to decide which one we feed, feed the good one more
Yeah,
than we feed the bad.
yeah. I always talk about, like, in my head sometimes, like I have the little angel on one side, the little
Angel
devil
and
on
the
the other
devil.
side, and they often have conversations about who's right. Um,
Yeah.
sometimes, and like I said, and sometimes, when I'm really frustrated, I'll just, and sometimes it's okay to be cranky and assertive and just, sometimes do say what is in a more negative space because you need that release.
Yeah.
As long as it's in a way that doesn't, I always say, harm others,
Mm.
being conscious of that. But again, that comes back to whether you're living individualistic or whether you have a better understanding of, and that's the thing, understanding how my behavior impacts on other people
Yeah.
and being aware of that. And like I said, there's some people where I actually don't care how my behavior impacts on them because I don't like them. And I'm okay with that.
We've all got a list ready for the purge, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it. Like acknowledging that first off, we're human.
Yeah,
And we're not, I love, yeah, imperfection is the greatest perfection.
I think so. I think that's where beauty lies.
Yes.
In the
And
blurred
being
lines,
ourselves. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Authenticity is beauty without boundaries.
Yes. Love that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got I got three questions.
Okay.
What is the greatest piece of life advice you've ever received?
The greatest piece of life advice I've ever received. Gosh, I would say it would be to just be myself, be true to who I am. And that came from a mentor, is just understand you and be true to you.
Yeah.
And everything else will come from that.
What's the worst piece of life advice you've ever received?
Oh, do you want the list? I would say the worst piece of advice I've ever received is probably, well, I guess it's almost like the opposite. And that would be to, for me, it's probably the worst advice has been to chase the money, to to stay in a job, to stay in a job because of the security and the money that provides, even though the job was toxic and I
Golden
was unhappy.
handcuffs.
Yes. Yeah. Um, because yeah, it's never, if you're unhappy, no amount of anything outside you will fix that.
And it's ironic,
But
right?
yeah,
For an extra 10K, 20K, whatever the fuck it is annually, right? You end
yeah,
up blowing that on faster cars, bigger houses,
oh,
faster highs. And you're
yes,
like, at the end of the year, I'm actually worse off for having that
yeah,
money because I've spent more money trying to then recuperate from the job that you hate. And it's like, oh my God, this is a weird cycle. But it's hard. It's hard to be able to like paint that out on a picture and look at yourself in the mirror and be
yeah,
like, oh, objectively, this is what's happening and what will happen, and what will
yes,
continue happening. It's not a nice feeling. I get it from blue
no,
collar. I get it from manual labor.
yeah. And I like, because of my sexual abuse as a child, I actually there was money involved there. So I actually came into my entrepreneur world later on in life with really bad money mindset anyway. But in some ways, I've changed that, to become a successful entrepreneur. You need to do a lot of work on that. At
Yeah.
the same time, money doesn't drive me. So I always have to find something more than the money
Mm.
to chase my goals. But I also, being a business coach, like work with people, and yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're making, $10 a week in a startup or losing money, or have multi-million dollar businesses. Their happiness is not dependent on that, because you know uh, because sometimes it's the ones that aren't making the money that are the happiest.
Yeah.
So I've learned, and same when I lived in Thailand, like the poor people there were so happy and beautiful. I then moved from there to America in 2000. So and I was living in Silicon Valley,
Yep.
where everyone I knew was on 200K US dollars a year in the tech industry. And I would have to say they were the most miserable, unhappy bunch of people I've ever come across.
Wow.
And that was a big eye opener for me to go, yeah, it doesn't, you have to find happiness within yourself.
You have to create it, right?
Um, yeah, absolutely. And look, and I'm not saying, because for some people, in saying that, for some people, they are driven by money and
Yep.
money is a high value to them, in which case having more money will make them happier. But I think that comes back to understanding you. And a big part of understanding you is knowing probably what your top 5 values are. what your core values are. And I don't think enough people do the work on that to understand then when they're making choices in life, whether they're being congruent or incongruent with their core values.
Top five. I like that. I really like that concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then, like I said, if you're chasing something because, career or money or house or whatever, but you're like me and you don't have wealth in one of your top five values, you're always going to feel incongruent. So
Yeah.
A, you're going to self-sabotage. B, you're not going to be that motivated. But for me, like I could change that in a mindset shift and go, no, but for me, helping and kindness are all in my top. But if I make more money, I can help more people. So I'm driven by that rather than, so money's just a vehicle.
Yeah. It's freedom.
Yes. And free. Yeah. For some people, it's that freedom to do
Yeah.
things as
Yeah.
well. So, but until we know what our five values are, we don't understand that. And I think that's where some people do reach incredible success in whatever field or industry, but they're not happy because it's not actually tied to what they really truly value at a core level.
All right, I got one more minute and then buddy Zoom's going
Yep.
to kick me out, but I got one more question.
Yep.
What are the 3 words you would tell your younger self?
You are enough.
Ooh. Why?
That's it. Everyone is enough just exactly as they are.
Wow.
And I think for too long, society, people, individuals, we try and be something or think we're not enough. But every person on this planet is enough exactly as they are right now, right today, right in this moment.
Love it. Thank you so much. This has been an honor and a privilege, mate.
Same. Thank you so much. I've loved chatting to you. I love
Thank
what
you,
you
mate.
do. And
Appreciate
let's,
it.
make the world a better place.
I mean, let's try, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Let's at
Well,
least
that
fucking give it a
that
crack.
is it. And I believe that one person is a ripple effect. So, I believe that every single individual can contribute to a better place, better world.
Agreed. Mate, talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Enjoy the
Bye.
sun. See you later.
Yeah, shall do. Bye.
See you later,
Bye.
everybody.